All right, we're going through, we're becoming an entrepreneur, we're making our money, we're starting to see some success. Does it feel like success right now? I mean, you said it, Dud. You're young. You said
it feels
You're
great.
young. It feels okay.
It feels great. And then of course I start to see a little bit more success. So yeah, at this time I'm not even making, six figures in my business, which was back then, that's the ultimate goal. I want to make my $100,000.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, how can I make $8,333 per month?
Yeah.
And, at this time I'm making, some websites here and there. I'm making graphics, I'm making flyers, and I'm like, all I have to do is make 67 flyers per month to hit my goal. And in my mind, I'm like, the math is mathing in my head. And it's like, girl, where the hell are you going to find 67 people per month? Like, you need a new plan. And so that's when I started like learning about, packaging my offers and charging higher prices. I had to become actually business savvy around what I was doing, because it's like, this is your thing for real. This is your career. This is your bread and butter. And you're saying you want to hit this goal. But I think that's the beauty of goals too, because it stretches you to think, right? It's like when I was in college and I'm kind of on the fence about, what am I going to do? Will I get a job? Will I kind of do this thing on the side? When you make the decision, this is what I want to do, this is how much I want to make, you have to force yourself to think of different ways to get there.
Right. No, that's good. So I guess I'm curious now, you're making the money, but when do you hit a wall, right? You know the number. Is there any point where it's like, I can't get to the 8,033, or my repackaging, my first chance at repackaging fails?
Yeah.
And I get, tell us about the first major failure. Because it seems like right now you're on an uptrend.
I'm on the up and up.
You're on the up and up.
Yeah.
You done told mom and daddy, nope, y'all like God to me, but I'm doing my own thing, and I'm gonna follow God for myself, which I think there's a huge lesson in that. And I love that you said that. But everything's going up. When do you ever see a little dip?
I would say it was the first year before I had my first six figures. So this was maybe 2015. I'm 25 years old. And I think that year I maybe made $89,000. And in my mind, I'm like, what's that gap? Because to start having, my first $8,000 months, 5-figure months, and then kind of like regress a little bit, I was trying to figure out, well, what happened? Because I'm like, I didn't feel like it was a strategy thing. I felt like it was a mindset thing. And I'm like, what's happening mindset-wise, energetically, spiritually, that's blocking me from making this money? And one of my personal core values, even though I wasn't able to articulate it at the time, is personal responsibility. What did I do wrong that kept me from making the money? I didn't necessarily think more people should have paid me, or I felt entitled to something. And so I started just kind of thinking about what was going on. And I just felt like, one, I wasn't in the right environment. And because generosity is another core value, I always found myself giving away my money, but I had poor boundaries around how much I was giving away and who I was giving to. And so there was like this subconscious block in my mind that was like, what is the point of you making money if you don't get to enjoy any of it for yourself? And so that's when I started really heavily focusing on the mindset work. I read a book called Boundaries by two Christian psychologists, Henry Cloud and John Townsend.
Okay.
Because while I love mindset, I always love to have some scripture to kind of back up that personal development.
Give us that
advice.
scripture.
Give me that scripture so I can back it up.
Yes.
Because I love spirituality, but I try not to go too much into the woo-woo. I'm like, let me make sure a little bit of Christ is in here.
Right,
so I read that book. That helped me a lot with boundaries, being able to say no without feeling, guilty. So that helped. And then I started reading other mindset books. I started reading The Power of Your Subconscious Mind, The Science of Getting Rich. And then the next year I had my first $100,000 year. And then the year after that, it was like 180. Then the year after that, it was a little over 300. Then the year after that, it was my first million. So I started to see like this growth. And then I don't think I hit a wall again until maybe like 2021 or 2022.
So it wasn't just mumbo jumbo. It wasn't just like, oh, just believe in yourself and like it was. What? Why do you think the mindset thing was a key that unlocked this new level in you?
I think just having an expansive mindset of what is possible. The books for sure, the environments, the things I was consuming. I was also reading like a lot of books. I studied a lot of experts, and I would read blogs of people who were making tens of thousands of dollars, $100,000 a month blogging or creating content. And so seeing what is possible makes such a huge difference. It just expands your mind into like, yo, I could really do this if I actually declare that I want to do it. And so I think seeing what is possible, being in the right environments. I had hired my first business coach in 2014, so I'm sure that absolutely played a part in it. And I think what I really loved about the power of your subconscious mind is it really highlights your thinking habits, right? I think a lot of us have really poor mental hygiene and what our thoughts are.
Mental hygiene.
Yeah.
Ooh, I love that. How to use that.
Yeah. And so we just have negative thoughts, negative thoughts, negative thoughts. A lot of like psychologists call it ants, right? Automatic negative thoughts. And we're always thinking about like, I'm going to be a failure, or I'm not good enough, or I don't deserve this. And it's like, dang, you are listening to your voice all day long. You have to be intentional about what you're saying and what you're believing. And so that's when I also got really intentional about affirmations. And I would just like, I would write out affirmations in scripture that was in alignment with what I wanted for my life. And I would look at it every single day. And I remember I had this inspirational wall, and I had done it from apartment to apartment. And I had one wall that said I wanted to make $20K. And I'm like, I have no idea where $20,000 is going to come from. But when you see that again, when you set that target, it forces you to show up to do the work to do it and to figure it out. If I only had a goal in life right now to make $5,000 a month, I would be making $5,000 a month.
Yeah.
If I have a goal to make $20,000 a month, I'm going to make $20,000. When you set the goal, you will figure it out. And so I remember having the first 20,000, I'm like, yo, I don't even know how I did it, but thank God I wrote it down. Then I remember moving to another apartment. I had this like inspiration wall. I wrote 100% debt free. I wrote $40,000 a month, and I wrote live weekend event. And I did all of those. And I'm like, I don't even know how it happened. I mean, obviously God and faith and doing the actual work, of course, because faith has to match with works. But it's like writing it down and seeing it come to fruition. It's like, thank God I was intentional about expanding my mind and like doing the work.
But this is so good because you have actually done the thing.
Yeah.
You've actually put the pieces in place, but you're sitting here as you recap telling us the linchpin, the biggest part was the mind.
For sure. 100%.
The biggest part was I can do that thing.
Yeah.
I'm setting that big goal. I'll get there once I set the goal.
Yeah.
And so is that a problem for entrepreneurs? Are we just not setting goals that are expansive enough?
Yeah. I think we're just so limited with our thinking because of our environment. And I think one of the things I'm really grateful for is how early I started. Like I started before, like when Facebook, you had to have an actual college email. I started before Instagram was around.
Right.
I started when we were just on Twitter for fun. And so I didn't have a lot of competition or comparison. And so I think now with entrepreneurship, industries are so noisy and people are constantly comparing themselves to people who have already been in the game for, 10 years. And it's like, girl, you got to give yourself some grace.
Right.
Like you have to be okay with being bad for your first year, your second year, your third year. It's okay. Like I think what people also have to understand, I tell this to my clients in my community, it took me 7 years. Actually, it took me 9 years to make my first 100,000.
Wow.
Right? I started freelance designing in 2008. I made my first $100,000 in 2017. I wasn't really that good for a lot of years, And so, but I just kept going. So I think it's the comparison and it's the desire to like rush into success without really respecting the process.
And like you're saying, we see the timeline and we start comparing. We wrote the big goal down. We did that part.
Yeah.
But we think it happens tomorrow.
Right.
And because it doesn't, maybe I should be doing something else. Maybe I need to pivot to something different.
This is a sign from God that I need a pivot.
Right. I need to pivot. And I've been doing it 2 weeks and I didn't make 100,000.
I wish I had more eyes to roll.
I wish I had more eyes to roll.
Okay.
So, but how do you deal with discouragement? I mean, to the core of her, You're going to, in 9 years, how many times did you want to leave and do something else or go back to school or go get a job or...
I never want to go back to school, I'll tell you that. But I did deal with discouragement. And maybe that's part of it too. It's like, girl, what are you going to go back to? I never had a corporate job. But that doesn't mean that I didn't deal with discouragement. I just didn't deal with it in terms of wanting to go back. I think with discouragement, something that is really helpful is just having a community, right? Christians say, like, when you're dealing with something, you need to have somebody that can stand in the gap for you.
Right.
And so you need that community where you can say, I'm just not feeling it today. Like, can you pray for me, or can we co-work together, or just whatever it is.
Yeah.
Also having a community of people who are also transparent with what they have going on. Because sometimes we feel like we are the only person going through the thing that we are going through.
Right.
And it's like, you're not at all. I remember when I went through one of the most discouraging seasons of my business. And I was having a conversation with a friend who is more senior in entrepreneurship than I am. And he's like, that's a Tuesday in entrepreneurship. And for me, I was kind of pissed because I'm like, you're minimizing something that is like so devastating to me. And now in hindsight, I see it's like, girl, this is a Wednesday afternoon. It is what it is. But knowing that you're not the only person going through it, nobody's after you. This is not an attack from the devil. This is the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. And it's not a sign to quit. It's a sign that you're in the game and you're playing.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I just recently was reading or listening to Phil Knight's book, the founder of Nike.
Yeah.
And I'm listening to the book and I'm like, he only goes through maybe the first, 10, 15 years of his company. But it's like every year he's dealing with a major challenge.
Yeah.
It's like first, I didn't think my dad was discouraging me. I couldn't sell shoes. And the next year I couldn't find a manufacturer. Then I finally found one. Then we couldn't supply. And then we got sued by the government because we brought in too much inventory. It's like, and it's teaching me while I'm listening. So I'm like, oh, this is normal.
This is normal.
These challenges, these mountains you climb are part of entrepreneurship. So
yeah,
that's really good. That's really good. Let me ask you.
I think a big part of the challenges is sometimes we're so focused on the destination, but we are not cognizant of the person we have to become to maintain the level of success that we desire. And there's no way I would be able to maintain a level of success of running a 7-figure company, being a leader to the people on my team, had I not faced a lot of those challenges. Like those challenges help you build the muscle that's required to be strong enough to withstand all the things that you're going to go through.
Absolutely.